Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Commission Breath. Brandon Love here with Tom Moffat. We are back from the Be the Better Broker event in Whistler, and we're going to share some key takeaways we had today. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see this. If you're listening, you can't, but I've got a non-alcoholic Corona, and Tom is drinking some nasty green juice. So we're all health focused over here. And today we're going to share some stuff that I think is helping the health of our business and will help the health of yours as well.
I witnessed Brandon crush like probably 5 non-alcoholic beers in like 40 minutes last Friday.
You could tell I was really craving a regular pint, but we were in like this picture perfect spot, second terminal of the Vancouver airport, waiting for a flight, just watching all the float planes take off. If you were to get drunk somewhere, it would be like the ideal spot. Obviously, I'm not drinking until TANGO hits $1 billion funded. So I was having non-alcoholic beers instead, but it was still nice.
I was close, man. I was this close to getting you to have a real drink, but I'm glad I didn't convince you because I would feel really bad.
You can't tempt me. You can't tempt me. I'm ironclad in my resolution.
You were close, man. You were close.
Anyways, we digress.
Yeah, I mean, like from a conference perspective, I haven't really been to too many of like that style of conferences. Like I've been to NPC and in other industry general conferences, but this one was more of like I don't want to call it like high ticket, but it was more of an expensive entry to get into. And Dustin had like a pretty sweet lineup of a variety of different topics, which was really cool. And it wasn't like totally mortgage specific content. Like, of course, everything was geared towards mortgage brokers in the industry. But to give you an example, one of the speakers was more of like a mindset health guru, and one of the other speakers was more of like an overall general sales professional and really good strategy person when it comes to sales. So we had a lot of different takeaways. Well, we'll dive into it, but a lot of it for me was more so a realization that I should be attacking certain things that have been on my mind. So that was kind of the general theme for me. I think, Brandon, you have other takeaways, but why don't we dive into the ones you wrote down and go from there?
Yeah, and just before we go into things, Dustin had a really cool way of getting everyone to really open up from a speaker perspective. And it was called like Chatham House Rules. So you can talk about what was talked about at the conference, but you can't attribute quotes or anything to anyone. So in the spirit of that, we will do the same on the podcast, just honoring his request there. It was really great because a lot of speakers were from quite high up positions in different scopes of industry, and they were very open to just sharing with the room because they weren't worried about someone going and saying, person X said this, and then getting themselves in trouble down the line. So we got a lot of insights from that, and it was just a really cool format to get people to actually be really transparent with stuff.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So thank you for reminding me. I'm pretty bad with names anyways, so I don't think I'll have that problem. But
Yeah.
Let's go into your first point. What do you got here?
Yeah, so this one's probably something that a lot of you are anxious about, and that is AI. And one of the presentations, it was a double header on going really deep on how to use AI in the business. And one thing it just really strengthened my position on, I've been leaning into AI quite a bit, as has Tom. And our position and viewpoint is that you can't ignore it. And the conference really reminded us of this. They shared that the people who say they're not going to use AI or that AI is evil and it's not going to have a role in their business are the same people who said they won't use the internet or they wouldn't use social media. And now, we're all over both. So with AI, a key piece that the conference really reminded me is that everyone needs to get comfortable with it on a base level. You don't need to use it for everything in your business, but get comfortable with the platforms, get comfortable with the tools, because if you don't, there's going to be that knowledge gap and you'll experience a really hard time trying to catch up and close that at the speed in which AI is moving.
It's here to stay. You may as well jump on board in the early phases and get ahead of anyone else. I'm guilty of leaving this for so long. Like I wish I jumped on it a year ago when it started becoming really, really popular. And the biggest reason why I avoided it was I felt like it was a bit overwhelming and that I didn't have enough time to learn it. Where, I mean, both of those are excuses. I mean, you can go on YouTube and follow a couple creators that are all about like ChatGPT mastery and literally learn anything you want within 4 hours of hyper learning. Like to give you an example, when we were at the conference, again, I forget his name, so I'm not going to blast his name anyways, but everyone was feeling that kind of overwhelming feeling when the presenter was talking and going through all of his PowerPoints. And it was really, really awesome stuff. But I did feel a bit of that overwhelm, and I've been diving deep on it for the last 6 months. One of the comments he made that'll stick with me is the early stages of his journey. He felt that he was almost on an even level playing field with everyone else. And he was kind of depressed about it because he realized everyone has access to all of these different AI tools and that he wasn't special, and that everyone's going to catch on to it. And then it's just going to be like everyone is on the same playing ground. But he talked to his mentor, and the mentor mentioned to him, you know what, don't worry about that, because basically not everyone's going to execute. Everyone's going to dabble with it, and they're not going to take it as serious as you are. And that hit home for me after the person next to me basically confirmed that statement. He's like, man, that was a great presentation, but like, I feel like it's too much to learn. Like, it's going to take too long. I'm like, fuck, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get all of these insights and all of the strategies and everything in the world, but if you don't action any of it, you're in the exact same position. And a lot of people I see posting on different groups and saying in meetings, like, I'm really concerned about AI replacing me in the industry. Is the mortgage broker going to have a role in this space? And what I really liked about how that presenter framed it is he's like, use AI to support you, but then allow that to get you in front of clients more. So what people try to do is they try to use AI and make like a simulation of themselves, and that's going to talk to their clients, and they're in the background working behind the scenes. He's like, that's the wrong way to approach it. Instead, use AI to back you up. So it's helping with your emails, it's helping with creating marketing materials, helping with that stuff. But that extra time you have allows you to get more face time, more human interaction, more conversations with your actual clients.
You're the face of the brand. It's going to be like that even more so as we approach more of the AI era. So, like you said, let it do 80% of the work upfront for you when it comes to creative thinking, getting the framework for social media, emails, whatever the application is that you're looking to use it for. Let it do 80% of the work. Then I believe this is coming from him. I believe the next 15% is you curating the content and going through it. The last 15% is asking ChatGPT to review everything and polish it. I believe that was the framework he used, right?
You're a little over 100 there, but the percentage would be 80% AI creating, 15% editing, and then you feed it back the last 5% to like
Yeah,
ChatGPT.
85. I said 80, 15, 5, didn't I?
No, you went 80, 15,
Oh,
whatever. Whatever you
okay.
did, you were over. It's okay. It's okay. You were thinking basis points. You're all good.
There you go, man. It's money's on my mind.
Yeah. So, yeah, getting in front of people and having that more human connection really segued into the next one, which, honest to God, Tom and I almost skipped because we were a little bit like tapped out of conference mode at that point. We were like, oh, let's just go sit and talk about some of the things, better to implement than overwhelm our brains. But we were like, screw it, we're going to sit in. And this was a sales presentation. And she talked a lot about emotional versus logical decision making. And so many clients come to us in emotional settings. They're buying a home or they're refinancing or they're in like a debt crisis. And we interact with them in very logical terms. So we're like, what's your income? What's your budget? Like, we're very numbers based and logical, and they're making an emotional decision. We're coming at them with logic, and it's not the best way to sell. The best way to sell is to appeal to them on an emotional level and then have the logic to back it up. So they buy through emotion, but they use logic to back it up. And this reframe, like, both Tom and I were looking at each other like, discovery call, like this part of the business, like everything. We're looking at it all wrong. And I just tested this prior to recording this podcast. I just had a call with a client, and rather than doing my traditional discovery call of like getting all the data points, going through essentially what would be the application, I just chatted with them about their goals and where they were at and all this stuff. And it ended up being like a half an hour conversation where they were like, so-and-so in my network's a realtor. I want to connect them with you. Our son wants to buy in a couple of years. Is it okay if we give him your contact? And it was just such a radically different experience from just trying to process one application.
Yeah, there you go. I think this industry, we've kind of been set in our way over the years of just being taught, like, have a 15-minute discovery call, go through all of your points and your questions regarding income, down payment, credit. Just get the information, get off the phone and send them the app. I feel like we've been stuck in that way for so long that there's a different way of doing it. And this is what I mean by the topics and presenters being more generalized than very specific and granular in the mortgage industry, because it took us to, off the top of our head, that discovery call was going to be the most important implementing this style of sales and conversations. So I think if you can create a model where you have enough information up front, but you can have that one-to-one bond and that storytelling communication with that client, and then figure out the rest of the pieces along the way, whether it's just getting it from the application or doing something unique like having a screening process while they book the call to get all the information you need, all of the data points, and then you just use the discovery call as that bonding moment with that client.
Yeah, for sure. And another key thing she touched on was that the emotional side sells, but so do stories. So make sure you have stories to back things up. But a key point she added here is when your story goes for more than 4 sentences, you start to lose people. So get your stories, think about certain ones. If you have a story about first-time home buyers, if you have a story about a time that someone chose a higher rate because the prepayment privileges were better, whatever it is that you need in your storybook, let's call it, have those ready, get them dialed in so they're no more than 4 sentences, and just pull them out and say them as you need them.
Yeah, and she did mention relate the story to the question you just asked and that you prompted. I feel that way with stories too. I try to get to the point, and sometimes like you do skip over important details, but try to keeping it to that 4 sentence structure is going to be key. So you're not going to lose them and drag the conversation on.
Exactly. So I would encourage you to take a look at the questions you ask your clients and just say, is this an emotional question or is this a logical question? And see where you can mix in some more emotional questions there, because you will build a better connection with that client. It'll be stickier and it will be a more referable experience because they'll feel connected to you as an individual versus just another person trying to sell a mortgage.
Yeah, as any topics or strategies that we talk about here, we're going to be implementing this in our business and we're going to report back how it goes.
For sure. Next one is touching on sort of the broader economics of the country and where Canada is at as a whole. And when there's an economist or someone from the government there, my initial like knee-jerk reaction is to like glaze over and be super bored. And Dustin did a fantastic job of finding people that were like very engaging and super knowledgeable, and like the education, like I left that feeling so much more confident speaking about tariffs, speaking about broader Canadian policy and government, like where it's headed. And that was great. And I'm not going to be able to capture what they said in a podcast, and I'm not going to try to be a armchair economics major here or anything like that. But I will say you don't have to become a master in economics, but you do need to have a few talking points and things that you can share with your clients, because this is something they are very stressed and anxious about. So just do a little bit of high level learning on this. And one key theme that I kind of pulled out of this was the resiliency of Canada and Canadians. And that's just a message that I'm echoing to my clients now. It's like, yes, tariffs would really hurt the economy. Yes, it would hurt the dollar. Yes, there would have broader economic impacts. But Canada as a whole, when we saw those tariffs, everyone's talking about buy Canadian. Everyone starts to rally together. This connected Canada is something that I felt as a country, we were quite segregated in terms of political opinions. Certain people about vaccines feel one way, or political leaders feel another way, whereas something like the tariffs allowed us to unify against a common enemy. And this more connected Canada is something that I'm going to be chatting more about with my clients and just sharing that message with them.
Yeah, you got to pull some positivity out of it. I try to stay down the middle when it comes to politics. And I think that's a good message, staying right down the middle, being a supporter of Canada and being a proud Canadian. I think that goes either way, whether you're on the side of the left or right, it doesn't matter. I think that's just a positive community vibe that you're giving off to your clients. I will say that conversation was very knowledgeable, but very depressing. So I think if you can pull any positivity around what's happening right now, I think that's key for your clients, because you're going to need that support. And that's going back to the sales topic that we just talked about.
For sure. And people won't make decisions when they're in a fear mode. It's like an analysis paralysis they'll have. So they'll get pre-approved, but they'll never buy anything because they're worried about the economy getting rocked, or they're worried about X happening. If you can get them past that fear, you can get them buying and refinancing, doing things that they would do if they were in a more confident position. So you can really help support them and give them that strength that they need to trust the process, trust the country, trust themselves in it.
Yeah, and if you're like me and you have no idea what's going on with politics, I'll be the first to admit that, then you can leverage other people's expertise and shortcut your learning. And I feel like all of these topics kind of like go round circle and connect with each other because you can use AI and cut your workload down in half on figuring out what kind of posts to do or what kind of learning you need to do or how much effort you need to put into learning these different things going on with the economy. And one example of that would be Bruno. Shout out to Bruno with RMG. His stuff is awesome, but I don't always have the time to read his emails. So I'll just literally take his voice note, I'll download it, I'll put it into ChatGPT, get the transcript, and then I'll just ask ChatGPT to summarize it and I can learn from it. And then I can make my own post. So you can do things like that to shortcut stuff.
For sure. Definitely try to distill, get things into bite size that you understand and that you can then regurgitate and feed your clients so that they are more knowledgeable and informed as well. All right. Final point for me and my big takeaway from the conference. I feel like this is always the case, but the conversations from the people you interact with often end up leading to more learning than the actual conference material itself. And I know for our business, Tom and I had like an aha moment where we were like, realizing that we were operating in kind of a fear vacuum when it came to growing our actual mortgage book. Brokerage wise, we're rocking and rolling there. Everything's going quite well. But on our side of the business, we had this point where we were like, we don't really know if we want to grow because we're transitioning more to like management of the brokerage. We're not quite ready to give it up. Should we hire someone? Is that premature? Do we have money for it? And then we chatted with Jason Henneberry, who's one of our partners at Tango as well, and just really went deep and granular on what we were looking to accomplish. It provided a ton of clarity for what we're going to do next.
It was actually a reminder to use Jason more often with his knowledge and what he's got going on in his brain, man. Like the guy built his mortgage book up to, I believe, 600 mil, and he's just started so many different companies. He's just a really smart guy, and feeding off of him, figuring out, okay, what's our next hire? What are they going to be doing? How do we get out of the mortgage book day-to-day stuff so we can focus on growing both businesses? And it was really clarifying knowing that. And we're both happy to say we're now going to go ahead and hire that underwriter. So I'm super excited just to free up some more time.
For sure. And there was other conversations too. Like we met this guy in Burlington. I want to say it's Mark Eade.
Yeah.
And we're going to have him out on the podcast because we had a great chat with him too. But just like learning about, he's in Burlington where we both grew up and we have a lot of business there still. And just seeing his different sides of the industry and what he's focused on and just different conversations we had with people where they were very frank and very transparent about what they're doing on their business, how they're getting new business, how the landscape of their files has changed over the past couple of years. And these are all conversations that don't happen online. They're not going to happen in online courses or over podcasts or things of that nature. You have to be face to face in person and having these chats. And I think that is the real win of going to something like this, is getting those connections with people, having the conversations and using it to inform and shape the growth of your business.
Yeah, you summarized it well. Two things: connections with people, having those one-to-one conversations offline. And for me, I come back feeling more refreshed from not doing the day-to-day stuff, like the regular boring stuff, and just being out of the office, man. It helped me focus on what I need to do. That's always been on top of my mind, but I haven't been executing on doing things I need to do. So
yeah. And just to close it out, I just want to thank those of you who came up and said hi to us, who are listeners to the podcast. It's always nice to hear. Sometimes we feel like we're just talking to the camera or each other. So it's always good to hear that some of you find value in what we're saying. So thanks for listening. Thanks for coming and saying hi. We really appreciate you and look forward to crushing the rest of the year with you. Cheers.
cheers.